What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Cheeky Midweeky, where we are making strength and conditioning not boring anymore. And today we are joined by Coach Jessica Burke, where she is on for the third time, and we are kicking the new year off right. In this episode, Jessica and I talk about the good, the bad, the ugly of private sector strength and conditioning, and the things that she is going to do to help legitimize the field. We talk about all the ways that she has been learning to grow, scale her business, and how she is going to make private sector strength and conditioning better. She is a former strength and conditioning coach that worked in the college sector that transitioned into the private sector. So if you're in college and want to learn how to go private, or if you're private and you're considering going college, this is an episode for you because you're going to learn the ins and the outs. We're excited. I'm done talking. Let's get to it. So this is going to come out the first week of January because, like you and I talked off air, social media is dead. Everything's dead right now. We're filming right now, December of 2024. Your journey about what you've been doing and trying to fix your business as you've been sharing with everybody on social media. How's that been going? Actually, no, before I get there, thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. Third time. I'm honored.
Third timer. Yeah, we filmed some other third timers yesterday. They will be coming out today, actually, at the end of 2024. So third timer. Appreciate you.
Awesome. I appreciate it.
So how's the, fixing the business? Like, again, I've been watching it, but I am super interested. And I know our listeners are going to be interested because they want to do what you're doing. You're making money. You're having a good, balanced life. They want to learn from you. So how's it going?
Yeah, I mean, I would say this year, 2024, super transitional and super just kind of exploratory for me from a standpoint with my business, with the type of things that I want to do. And I think something that I didn't really foresee as I kind of dove into this journey of fixing my business or being able to earn more income was some dissonance and some misalignment between the things that I really wanted to be doing and the things that were making me money, and kind of the decision of being like, what road do I take, right? We've all been there, especially in this industry. It's, do I make a little bit more money and sell out a little bit and be a little bit more miserable? Or do I do things that more align with the things that I like to do? So it's really just been this like exploratory journey of me figuring out how to do exactly what I want to do and make good money and have a free and fun life. So
for you, what is it that you want to do?
I think the big thing that I came to realize is that, you can probably tell this by the way that I talk and the way I am, but I am thinking 1,000 different things every single minute. Like, I'm multi-passionate. I love doing different stuff. So something that I discovered about myself this year was, for me, doing the same thing. I can work all day. I can work 12, 14, 16 hours. But for me, doing the same thing over and over again, it's not fulfilling, right? So whether that's in collegiate where I'm standing on my feet in the same room for 12 hours, that used to drive me crazy, right? Or if I'm, on the other side of that coin, if I'm sitting in front of my phone or my tablet or my computer doing virtual sessions for 10 hours a day, that also drives me crazy, right? So I think for me, it was finding that balance of, how do I still help people without blocking my day full of doing the same thing over and over again? Because when you establish yourself in the private sector, it's really easy to book clients for 12 hours and make a bunch of money and then wake up and do it again the next day. But I had to have the conversation with myself. Is that even something that I'm interested in doing? Right.
Yeah, no, but some people are like, yes, Jessica, you could make more money than me working in this college athletics industry that I don't even know if it's going to exist anymore.
That is a interesting point that you bring up that I have thought of a million times. Yeah. I think there's a different lens when you get out of collegiate, and maybe you'll agree with me on this, where the scarcity mindset kind of goes away because, your paychecks every 2 weeks aren't $700. And I know it's a high paying job. I'll tell you off air where that is. And so your scarcity mindset kind of evaporates, right? So when you get out, it's this rush of like, holy shit, I can earn money, because that's just this new feeling. And then you realize that, yeah, you can earn as much money as you want, but how does that look in a year? How does that look in 5 years? Is that something that you want to build? So yeah, for me, it's just been experimenting, honestly, with like, how many virtuals do I want to do a day? Do I want to sit here all day? Do I want to walk my dog for an hour and a half in the middle of the day? Like, what life do I want to live? How do I construct it? And how do I make that happen? So I still haven't figured it out. But, as I get closer and closer to really enjoying myself and doing the things that I'm passionate about and helping the people I want to help, I make more money month over month, right? So those things are directly correlated, even though it might not be as much money if I was standing in a gym for 14 hours a day, charging an hourly PT fee, because that adds up for sure. But
yeah, and you're talking about the 4 Ps, the pay, personal life, career progression, and sense of greater purpose, because if it's only pay, and we've talked about this before, but if it's only pay that's keeping you at your job, and so this is an employer too, if you're only paying somebody a lot, but they hate their life, there's no career progression, and they literally have no sense of purpose, they will leave for less money if the other areas get better.
absolutely. And I think I love the idea of the 4 Ps. And I think that's an interesting point, because in collegiate, there's a very clear cut progression set out for you. So people who are achievement oriented or task oriented, like myself, do well with that structure, because you enter collegiate and you're like, okay, in 10 years, I'm going to be a director. Like, that's just what it is. That's the progression. And then you get out and you're like, I work for myself, by myself, doing things by myself all day. What does that look like in 1 year, 5 year, 10 years? And so creating that has been interesting. But like you said, the more those other 3 Ps kind of align, the pay has followed, for me, at least in my experience outside of collegiate.
Get CEUs faster, cheaper, and more convenient than ever before with Strength Coach Network. Hey, it's Justin, here to tell you about how Strength Coach Network can now help you out with our premium membership and CEUs to the NSCA and CSCCa. Upon signing up for our premium membership, you will get 2.0 or 10 CEUs immediately. That is an entire year's worth of CEUs that you are able to access from the convenience of your office. No traveling for conferences, no waiting on flights, no eating out, no expensive hotels. Just the good stuff from great coaches. Now, if you need extra CEUs for past years during the reporting period, we can bundle Fundamentals 1 or 2, which also come with 2.0 or 10 CEUs to your purchase. That way, you're able to take care of your CEUs for the best price, most convenient, and learn from some of the best coaches. If you want more help with this, email us at service@Strength Coach Network or visit us at strengthcoachnetwork.com, and I would be delighted to help you out. So anybody listening to you right now that is working in collegiate and they're like, okay, this all sounds nice. Like, how you don't have to rehash it, because anybody that's wondering that, you're going to go back and listen to the other conversations we had. Are you now, a year removed from the last time we talked, are you trying to open a Coach Burke Fitness, Burke, trying to be Peloton? Like, where are you going with this then, as you've stepped back and looked at what your plan is?
Don't want to say too much on this, because we're working on a few things. But I love the connection of training in person. I love the connection with athletes, with Gen Pop. I love the variety. Some people only want to work with Gen Pop. Some people are like, Gen Pop is a waste of time. I love the variety within my day. I love connecting with different groups of people. I will be training in person in a place that is mine, right? By the end of the year, definitely. That's within the next 6 or 7 months, getting that off the ground. But aside from that, the bigger picture for me is working to create a space where I can legitimize this industry. People are not well compensated. It's true.
Well, I was laughing because the last time we talked, you said something about like, hey, just eat a freaking salad instead of taking your greens powder, right? You're like, oh, I'm living this life, and I didn't peddle people buying this expensive, powder, and like.
It's true. No. And I mean, like, there's so many facets to the industry. And I think fitness and strength and conditioning have this weird overlap, but that can also serve both industries, but also takes away from them. And on top of that, like, the only reason that strength and conditioning, especially in general population and the private sector, hasn't been legitimized is because we haven't legitimized it, right? We don't pay coaches salaries. We pay them $20 an hour when we charge, $80 an hour for an athlete to take a class. We don't give coaches paid time off. We don't give them maternity leave. We don't give them benefits. So anything I do from this point forward, and like I said, I don't want to say too much because there's, going to be some stuff popping up about this. Anything I do going forward is obviously to, I want to train in person. I want to work with people again, but also I want to work with coaches and kind of setting a standard for what athletic performance and general population training as it pertains to strength and conditioning looks like in the private sector. And I want, to be quite frank, pay great coaches a lot of money to do what they like to do and be good at their job, because nobody seems to want to do that. And the industry is not going to be legitimized if we are the ones who keep delegitimizing it, right? If as soon as people get to the top and they get a facility, they're like, I'm going to pay this person 25% of the gross that's coming in off of this class or this session. And it sucks and it's unacceptable. So anything I do going forward is going to work to change that.
Amen to that. And I want to blow wind into the sails of that. So apparently everybody stay tuned, follow you to see what's going to happen. My question that I wrote down here though is, okay, with hiring, and like you said, if things are going to be happening and scaling, you've also said that you're perfectionist, like things done certain ways. How have you looked within yourself in terms of hiring? Because we have the vast number of listeners and some of them are directors or aspiring to be directors. And they're like, okay, this is me. How do I fix that? What do I do?
In terms of being able to let go of the reins a little bit, or?
Yeah, because like you said, I'm going to create an imaginary world now. Jessica has a facility that you have, and you've got classes and private training and coaches are coming and going and you're not at the facility all the time, right? But you have to have good people that you know and you trust. How do you get the comfort to allow that to happen if you like things done a certain way? What's your hiring process? Because again, we've got coaches that are directors that have to hire people. And right now it's December 2024, coaches are getting let go, coaches are getting hired. So this is private sector, regardless, coaches are doing this.
Yeah, I don't think you're ever going to get completely comfortable with it. I don't think I'm ever going to get completely comfortable with it. And it's something I intend to work on. But for me, and I think the same should ring true in collegiate. You can teach people how to be strength and conditioning coaches, right? But you cannot teach people to be good humans and to be not shitty people, right? And I've tried. And so have many directors, actually, to put it frankly. They've tried as well. But you can't remove that from people. So I think the most integral part to me, and the fortunate thing is that I've been in this community of strength and conditioning, especially online, for the better part of the last 12, 13 years. I know a lot of people who I trust, and who, whether it's not them, if it's a couple degrees of separation, where I trust that I can build out a team of not shitty humans that are really like willing to learn, right? And I think a part of that, there are going to be bumps and there are going to be people that I'm sure I'm not happy with and things like that. But I firmly believe that if you give people a good work environment, and if you give them opportunities for growth, and if you give them things that are unheard of in this industry, like benefits or profit sharing, or like exclusive opportunities to do things online and work with different groups of people, that the right people will rise to the top. And as we know, I have no problem telling the wrong people that that they can go. So
I'm laughing because you are right. I've learned that. And that's exactly when I helped hire Kate, who now I almost said Correa, but it's right now that she got married. When she got hired, I was like, listen, she's even said, listen, I wasn't great at the strength and conditioning stuff. She had a job in sales beforehand, then realized she wanted to be a strength coach. But I was like, I can teach her the speed work. Like, she knows the weight room, but she's an unbelievable human being that is going to connect to the athletes and coaches better than anybody else. What is even the conversation to have? She already interned for us. What are we doing here, people? You know what I mean? What's up, everybody? Taking a quick break from the show to talk about one of our sponsors, TeamBuildr. I've been using TeamBuildr since 2019 when I was at Towson. I still use it with my remote athletes. I also use it at Goldfinch, which is the private sector gym I train at, and we use it at Centennial, which is the high school that I'm working at. Now, if you're printing on lift cards because you say, oh, I can't afford TeamBuildr, guess what? TeamBuildr has a pre-written grant that you can locate on their website. You simply change the name of you, your organization, and the areas that they highlighted, and they can help you get TeamBuildr at your facility, your university, whatever it is, so that way you can optimize how you train your athletes with this software. Now, TeamBuildr is also a part owner in the Plyomat. The Plyomat is something that I utilize at Goldfinch, and it helps you be able to see how high somebody jumped, the ground contact time, and RSI. You can get all that conveniently right there. You can reach out to your rep from TeamBuildr to be able to get more information on the Plyomat. It's fast, it's reliable, it's convenient, and it's trusted by coaches worldwide. Check them out as well as TeamBuildr in the link down below.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. Agree 100%.
How do you handle the weaponization of guilt? Because I feel like it's going to get used more in the private sector because you're actually talking about exchanging money for a service, whereas in college and high school, hey, you get paid this to work with these athletes. Mm-hmm. But the whole phrase of, oh, if you were really in it for the money, Jessica, you wouldn't be charging X amount to be training me and people that way. This is something that Brett Bartholomew has talked about. This is something that I personally want to learn about. Has it something that you've come across and dealt with?
I have. And it's beyond confusing to me. And part of it lies within what we just talked about, like the delegitimization of this industry, right? We're highly educated professionals, but some people, don't see the value, don't want to pay, things like that. I think the guilt piece isn't really relevant to me because I simply won't entertain that conversation, right? If you want to talk to me about how if I was in this for the money or if I wasn't in it for the money, I would train you for less money, then go train with somebody else, right? Like I'm not a missionary. I'm not a monk, right? I'm not doing this because I want to serve the world and not earn a single dollar. So the guilt piece doesn't really work on me. But I also think a huge piece of it has to deal with like our belief of our value as professionals. I personally know a lot of coaches that drop their price routinely because they want to work with people. And every single time that you do that, every single time that you try and cut somebody a deal or you try and put somebody on a payment plan or you try and shave money off of a monthly coaching program or you try and give them a free session for all of this, you're basically saying, hey, you don't see the value in my product, so I'm going to meet you where you're at instead of you meeting me where I'm at. And that's something that early in my career I definitely did. I undercharged a lot, but the guilt piece doesn't really bother me anymore because we don't have that conversation.
So now when you have these people and they're working with you, what does success look like to you, to the athlete, to the client, and how do you measure it?
In terms of just like me personally working with somebody or, okay.
Yeah. What does the definition of success look like?
Obviously that differs greatly based on the person that I'm working with and based on their current situation and experience. If I have a middle school or high school female athlete who's never been in the weight room before and who doesn't move confidently in her body in the weight room or on the field or on the court or whatever, and who was really withdrawn in workouts and maybe doesn't necessarily see the value, but also just is really unsure of herself, then for me, success looks like her enjoying herself in the weight room, right? And making progress in the way that she's moving and getting more comfortable and watching her develop that comfort within her body and her athleticism. Obviously, when you get to a higher level, when you're late high school, recruitable athletes or athletes who you're preparing to send off to college, there are like KPIs that we will look at just to make sure that, we're not overtraining, we're not moving backwards. If a kid's getting recruited and I start working with them junior or senior year, I'm not going to turn this already superstar athlete into anything that they're not already, but just preparing them adequately for the demands of a college schedule, which is very different than a high school schedule. And then with Gen Pop, it's based on each client's individual need. I would ask them how they would define success. When I do that with athletes as well, right? I talk to them and have a conversation with them. I'm like, what do you want to see out of this? Because their perception is the entire experience. It doesn't matter if I go up to them and I have this sheet of all these KPIs that they've improved in. If they don't feel like, they're getting better or things are getting better, then that's the truth of their experience, right?
How often or / young are you seeing parents coming to you or talking to you about kids coming in with the changing world of college athletics? Is it getting younger? How's that trend going for you?
I wouldn't say it's getting younger, because I think that the private sector has done a really good job of promoting just performance training in general for youth athletes that are a little bit younger. So we're talking like our 8, 9, 10-year-olds, right? I think a lot of places do a really good job with kids that young. And I think you're never too young to learn how to move and be aware of your body and things like that. What I have noticed is this shift in parents like believing that they are experts on what we are, like the opinions have gotten so much more kind of steadfast, and then also just the intensity has risen, right? So parents now, where I've noticed like 5, 6, 7 years ago, they used to be like, how many times a week should we be doing this? Now they're like, okay, we want to lift 4 times a week, we want to do speed work 3 times a week, we got and I'm like, we're not doing that, but thank you for the suggestion. But you know what I mean? Like they now, and it's definitely social media, but also the intensity of athletics in general. And I imagine when you have a highly recruitable kid and 3 years ago, they were going to go to college and make $0, and now they might go to college and make $15 million. I imagine things are a little bit different, right? The stakes are raised, right? But yeah, they just a lot of opinions, but the push to start younger is not something I really noticed, because I think, like I said, I think the private sector has done a great job of creating kind of kid-friendly introductions to performance training. And I think that's great, especially for kids that maybe aren't serious about sports, but like really just need to move around. Like it's great.
Could you imagine working in college athletics right now?
No. I started to see the front end of it, especially when I was still at Purdue and at Penn State. You start to see the front end of, wow, these kids are like getting paid, and it takes away. And then with the transfer portal in general, you're like, do I even tell this kid that they're doing something wrong, or are they going to transfer? Because some of them are fragile and they will just leave.
Coach Burke was mean to me.
She was yelling at me. Yeah, no, it's like, and they will.
Did you see a tweet? A guy named Joe Pompliano, who runs like an investment company, but he's like super into just finance and whatnot. He read finally and then put a tweet out there. It said that the South Carolina football had reworked a deal for an NIL on a player to stay there. Like now we're already like you're re-recruiting every single brand new year.
Yeah.
They want pro money, but they just don't want to be tied to pro rules, is what I'm noticing. What's up, everybody? Taking a quick break from the show to talk about one of our sponsors, Hawkin Dynamic. I've been using Hawkin Dynamics ever since I was at Towson. Still utilize it today when I'm at the private sector at Goldfinch. Even brought the plates from Goldfinch over to Centennial to do some force plate testing with the football team there. We've done force plate testing with other high school athletes. It is something that you need to get. If you want more help with it about how to practically use it and you want to reach out to us, feel free to reach out to us at service@strengthcoachnetwork.com. Not only do I utilize it with lower body assessments, I use it with upper body assessments, plyo push-ups, prone Y assessments. You can also utilize it for what I call an upper body isometric mid-thigh pull, where essentially you're doing it at the strongest range and you're pushing into an immovable force, so a barbell, same way you do an isometric mid-thigh pull. Like I said, been using them for years, valid, reliable. The customer service is fantastic. Go check out Hawkin Dynamic in the link down below and you will not be disappointed.
Yeah. And I think, it really is. It's wild and it's so unprecedented that I think, coaches and athletes and everyone are just doing the best that they can, because I get it. It's like you go off to college and now kids are making $10 million and you're at the top of the pile. Like you want that money, you want that paycheck. Absolutely. But also now it's not amateur, and we have to implement that across the board, in the sense that unless, especially with the Olympic sports and things like that, I understand like they're not as high earning and whatever, but especially with NIL, I mean, you have athletes like Livy Dunn who has $1 million deals for being a gymnast. You have to find some way to go across the board and make things a little bit more even. And you can't pay football players $6 million and then tell the gymnastics team that their granola bar budget is being cut. And that's a real story. That's real. Yeah. So you have to even it out some way. You know what I mean? We have to do better with that. But no, I could not imagine being.
No, I couldn't. And what I realized, I'm at a high school right now because like you, like I still have a softie for,
Well, you
working.
just, yeah, the
Right.
kids, yeah, of
So I'm
course.
at a high school and I was talking with the guy who's the head strength coach there, who I'm his assistant. And I was like, it's almost like we're going to be back to full circle, right? Because it's now you're capped at spending like 20 million across all the sports. You're now going to either start having to offer kids like, okay, I can't give you cash, but hey, here's a place to live, here's a car, or here they're back to the McDonald's bag of cash that I forget that some school got caught for doing that. But like, you're going to
Amazing.
be back to that process.
Yeah, I know. We've come
Oh,
full circle on the illegal recruiting process. And now instead of taking kids to like strip clubs, we're going to be like leaving Lamborghini keys in their dorm room. I love it. I think it's chaos. Watching it from the outside, it's a mess, but it doesn't really affect me.
no.
So,
And isn't that any of our listeners out there? Jessica and I both got out of college athletics almost at the same time and had a very similar story in terms of being happy to be out, but at the same time missing it because it is awesome, but it's also difficult. It's shout out to y'all for handling it, but I couldn't imagine going back into it.
yeah, it is. The further removed I get and the further we get into just this NIL and paying athletes to play world, the less I can imagine being involved, to be honest. So,
Now, here's a difficulty that you have to handle, and you talk about it quite often on social media. How do you handle these coaches that have no education, no qualification, but are trying to speak on things? And you have to kind of battle that with either your clients, be like, hey, Jessica, I heard this from fit coach, whoever, that like water has memory and I need to drink my own urine, or I need to not eat food. I got to do, hey, I'm sure you got this one. Can I do a water fast for 3 days? Can I do this? Like, how do you handle that? The pain in the exhale.
I yeah, it's getting better. It's getting better. I have to have a conversation with I actually no. I would say it's 50-50, right? So some of my clients come in and either they're like a referral or I've known them or they found me on social media, whatever. And they are so excited to do whatever I tell them to do because they're like, I've had such a bad experience with diet culture and with listening to all of the people on Instagram and stuff. And I just want to do what you tell me to do. We're good, right? That's 50%. But then the other 50%, and there's usually a direct correlation. People who don't want to do the boring stuff over and over again just want to do the exciting stuff, right? Like people who simply cannot remain consistent for more than 2 weeks at a time always want to do the exciting stuff, right? And it's part of their nature. It's the path of least resistance. They do not want to stay consistent. They don't want to stick to anything. So they're consistently, and it's part of their personality, are going to be looking for something to try. And sure, it's fed by the people on social media and things like that. But we had the same thing 40 years ago, right? When people were like, well, I don't want to work out every day, but I saw this article in Vogue magazine where I drink a glass of white wine and eat a hard boiled egg every day. You know what I mean? Like we had the same thing, right?
Right.
But it's genuinely just people. And this is not meant to be mean. This is not meant to be calling anybody out. But the reason that those people on social media who have these crazy ideas or do these crazy things gain attention and make money is because our attention span for getting in shape is so shallow, and we have to learn that it's just not sexy. There's nothing sexy about going to the gym 4 times a week and doing the same shit, doing the same exercises. And now that I've been lifting for 10 years, do I ever get any stronger? Not particularly, right? But I still have to go and do it and act like I'm doing this. Like it's exhausting. And sometimes I don't even want to do it. And I decided to do this with my whole life, right? So I guess I don't have a ton of sympathy for I've been doing this for 3 weeks and I don't look completely different. So I want to go on the tequila diet. And I'm like, by all means.
What would you tell yourself 5 years ago? So this is 2019. Like you're still in college, or looking back, you're like, hey, girl, this is who you should be doing this. You should be on the lookout for this.
So 2019, I was in grad school and I was interning at Michigan and working, like my schedule was absurd. I would spend 35 or 40 hours in the weight room. I was taking 21 credits because at Michigan you pay by the semester. So I was like, we're going to budget this. We're going to clip some coupons. We're going to get out of here. And it was the worst semester. I don't even know. I blacked out. I don't know. And I was definitely working very hard to get out with my master's and to have a good experience interning at Michigan. And I wish I could tell myself about I wish I had insight to the industry at that point. I wish I knew what it was going to be like. I wish I didn't idolize it as much as I did. Because when I tell you, I mean, there are coaches at Michigan that I really, really learned a lot from, right? That I really, to this day, really respect. I don't know if you know Lou Porciazzo, shout out Lou. He was at Michigan when I was there. He's still there. And he helped me a lot, not only in strength and conditioning knowledge, but also in, managing my kind of emotions around collegiate strength and conditioning and kind of minding my P's and Q's a little bit. And then also there's a coach there, Kate, who I really enjoyed. And, she was working with women's soccer and she gave me a lot of opportunities and she did a lot for me. There were also a lot of coaches that I experienced that were really negative and were bullies and would yell at me. And I remember just crying in my car at least twice a week, being like, am I going to do this for the rest of my life? So I would tell me that stop. These people are you in 5 years. These people are not like, you're not working with Tom Brady here. You're not working, you know what I mean? Like these people have done the same stuff that you've done, but they've just done it for a little bit longer. And taking some of that shine off of the industry and like telling myself to focus less on progression and more on figuring out what type of coaching I aligned with, what type of coach I wanted to be, what type of person I wanted to be, what type of life I wanted to live, and then engineering my professional life around that. Because for so long I idolized being in collegiate, and I was literally like, I would look at Favor and I'm like, I'm going to be him. I'm going to be a director like in 10 years. Like I'm going to do this. And just pulling myself out of that bubble, because once you're in it, once you're like, I'm going to be a collegiate coach, nothing else exists outside of that. And that's why you do things like move to West Lafayette, Indiana. So have I not said enough?
All right, taking a quick break from the show to talk to you about one of our sponsors, Powerlift. I used Powerlift when I was at Harvard, Maryland, and the University of Iowa. I was also part of the staff that had the new weight room at the University of Iowa, the 32-rack, beautiful facility. I was a part of that. I also have Powerlift's equipment nowadays. Powerlift Strong, made here in the great state of Iowa in the great country of the United States. They're able to work with you on any customizations that you need, logos, height, whatever it is, the limitations that you have. Their equipment is strong. The people there, they're very good people. Check them out in the link down below. And if you have any questions on how to work with them, reach out to us at service@strengthcoachnetwork.com and we would be delighted to help. Flip side, 5 years from now, so it's the end of 2029.
God.
What are you like to get where you want to get? What do you need to tell yourself? Like, what do you need to tell yourself?
All these were like these philosophical questions today I wasn't prepared for. Honestly, to just back yourself and create an industry that you want to be a part of. And that's something that I've struggled with for a really long time, because there's dissonance between a lot of the things that strength and conditioning, a lot of the popular ideologies in strength and conditioning, it's kind of been a boys club for a long time, and we're working to fix that. And so there's always been dissonance there. And I've really, at a couple different institutions, would second guess myself, and I'd be like, do I really want to be a part of this? Right? Like, is this something? And I'm sure you have similar experiences in collegiate where things happen, you don't agree with them, and you go home and you're like, I can't feel good about myself if I live my life this way. And so for me, I would say hold true to that and don't kind of listen to the people who say that you're dramatizing the sexism of this industry, or you're dramatizing how hard it is to be in this industry, because it is difficult. And I know a lot of people, I talk to a lot of coaches that are in a really low place because they've known nothing other than strength and conditioning. So my focus for the next 1 or 2 years, my zooming in is going to be creating something that I would want to be a part of as a young coach, creating environments for coaches that are really positive and that really help to legitimize this industry, because we can sit here and complain about it all we want, but it's not going to change until people start doing shit that's different than the shit that's being done right now. So yeah.
What's up, y'all? Taking a quick break from the show to talk to you about another one of our sponsors, Vitruve. I've been utilizing Vitruve for a while now, and I absolutely love the convenience of this app. The encoder is at a price that you cannot beat compared to the competitors. Also, I don't personally like the camera apps. I've known that they continue to break down, and I really enjoy having this encoder attached directly to the bar. Vitruve does that. Not only does it do that, but it'll show me velocity loss during the set, shows me average velocity, all of it right within the app. Not only that, for the app on the individual athlete, there's a Vitruve Teams app where now, as the coach, I can see all the results from my athletes. I can API that into my TeamBuildr, and now everything that I'm trying to do, get better competition, better intent in the weight room, I am able to do with Vitruve. If you want more information about them, click the link down below, or you can ask us questions directly at service@strengthcoachnetwork.com, and we would love to answer those questions for you. Does the sets and reps matter, the exercises? Does it even matter, or is it just so at first you just got to start doing the thing with Gen Pop people, athletes, when they start coming in, and just figure out their work ethic? Because that's part of the reason why we don't really dive into the X's and O's of the stuff here, because it's, you just got to get going at first, and then it's, yeah, go study the linear periodization, go figure out undulating and understand training age. But maybe I take that for granted. No?
Yeah, I mean, I think I have learned, how do I want to say this? I think I have learned way more things than I will ever utilize in my life when it comes to strength and conditioning. And I think there's a lot of great research, and I think I definitely am like a science. I believe in science, right? So I believe that exercise science is a science. I am often diving into studies and reading through things and examining things at a granular level. But when it comes to being one-on-one with an athlete or being in a room of athletes, I absolutely agree. I think we get lost in the X's and O's, right? I think, no, the reps, short answer, no. Like it doesn't matter. It doesn't, I guess I don't even know how to expand on it. It doesn't matter, right? The forward progression over time is not always going to look like 8 reps at 60 pounds, 10 reps at 60 pounds, 12 reps at 60 pounds. Great, we're going to 65. Like, it's not going to look like that week after week, right? Nope. And I think people get lost in that. And the greatest coaches I have ever had, whether it be strength and conditioning, whether it be something else, it's not, the X's and O's are such a small part that I think we can keep veiled behind whatever we're doing. But that's something that the client, the athlete, nobody needs to worry about that. And I see so many strength coaches tripping over themselves when it comes to programming. Whereas like we'd have a game day lift and I'd be like, come in here and do whatever makes you feel good. You want to squat heavy a couple times? You want to get fired up? Do it, do what makes you feel good. And yeah, I think we get too lost in now we got the force plate. And so now are we 75% ready for what we're doing? Or are we 80% ready? Or what if we did 65% of our 1 rep max, would then we be 82% ready? And it's just, we've gotten lost in the plot.
Yeah. And to me, this rings so true because I'll never forget in 2012, I was at University of Maryland. I'm the head cross-country men's and women's coach, in addition to being an assistant with the football team. My dad's in town. We're playing NC State that night, and the girls had a time trial. And during the week, they're like, oh, it's at whatever time. Cool. So I showed up, and they didn't think I was going to go. Yeah. But then that next week, because this happened football season, so sometime in October, and I had first started working with the team end of August, early September, and you're still trying to form relationships with athletes. And hey, yeah, we're goblet squatting before we front squat and front squatting before we back squatting. And they kind of didn't like that at first. And after I went to that meet, it literally didn't matter what I programmed. They would have done anything that I said. And so Correct. Like from that moment on, it was just totally build relationships and everything else will take care of itself. Yeah. If you're doing your homework as a coach to continue to learn and evolve. And of course, you can't just have your head in the sand and be like, oh, I'm just going to be their friend. That's not what we're saying either.
Yeah, but I think, and I think it's great when an athlete like wants to know about what I'm doing. If an athlete comes into my office and they're like, hey, like, why are we doing this? Can you explain this? Why do the reps do this week after week? 100% sit down, pull up a chair. Like, we'll have a conversation about why scientifically this works and this is what we're doing. But at the same time, it is your responsibility you're a conduit between the exercise information, the physiology information, and the athlete, right? You're not regurgitating the information to them, right? They don't need to know, they don't need to be involved in it. And like you said, the second you build good relationships with your athletes, the effort's going to go up, which is, I would argue, the only variable. What's happening?
So that's from your MacBook. You see your little green, do you have a little green arrow or green box that's lit up with a camera? Click it.
Yeah.
And then see how you probably have the word reactions highlighted.
Oh, wow.
Unhighlight it.
I just learning computers every day. What I was going to say, run my own business, had no idea that was a thing. What I was going to say is effort, and I think we can mutually agree, is the only variable that matters, right? In exercise, I think personally, right? And I know people are going to actually, if you look at the ideal rep range for hypertrophy, okay, but like effort is the variable that matters, correct? So if you have athletes that are coming in and operating at 60% effort, it doesn't matter what the reps look like. It doesn't matter what the sets look like. It doesn't matter even what the exercises are. I don't care. It's not going to be as effective as if athletes come in, they're excited to see you, they're excited to lift, and they're up around the 85-90% effort. Like, that is the only variable that matters, especially in collegiate. 100%. It's all an environment and a relationship game. 100%.
I agree. And to your point about running a business and not knowing that, I also run a business, and I couldn't convince my 6.5-year-old to go into his brother's classroom so I could read a book to the class yesterday. So that was fun.
Listen, I don't know how I navigate daily life, but apparently I am running a business. So I've been told.
I want to wrap this up to respect your time. Is there anything that you were like, hey, I wanted to say this when I had an opportunity to speak to people on this stage, something that you're like, it's not that you're biting your tongue on social media, but if you're like, hey, I wanted to get this off my chest during this conversation.
I can't really think of any. Were you thinking of something specific?
No, that's literally, this was my open-ended. So when I used to meet with athletes, we had the, hey, what are your goals? What is this? And talk about things. But then the last question was always open-ended. Is there anything else I can help you with? Anything you want to talk about? So this is how I like to end the shows of, hey, is there anything that was on your mind that you wanted to get off your chest, for lack of a better term, and say it to the industry that is listening?
I don't know if we have time for that. No, I'm just kidding. I love strength and conditioning. I really do. I love it. Maybe I seem like a hater sometimes, but I absolutely love what I do, and I love the industry. But man, it's been a wild ride. I don't think I have anything specific. I think the one thing I would say is, for strength coaches, that I am encouraging myself to do, but I encourage everybody else to do, that we kind of talked about at the beginning, is there are so many complaints about this industry, and I feel you on every level. I understand being in collegiate is really difficult, and so maybe you definitely don't have the time for serious action or things like that. But I would encourage, especially people that have left and gone to the private sector, there are still a lot of issues within the profession. There's a lot of problems. Pay was one that I mentioned. I think a lot of people are like, it's better than collegiate. And I'm like, okay, so is working at a Target. So, you know what I mean? That can't be the standard of being paid. So I would just say that I want everybody who's I don't know why I just think about my paychecks every time I'm on this freaking podcast. I think about staring at it was like 1 month, it was like $1,700. And I was like, I don't even rent and bread. I don't know. But I guess I would just encourage everybody to examine your chief complaints about the industry, and then especially if you're in the private sector, especially if you are one of these people who is paying people, or one of these people who is working with young coaches, what can you absolutely not stand about this industry, and how can you fix it? Because like I said, the industry is not going to legitimize itself, right? We have people with PhDs, we have people, some of the smartest people that I've ever met are strength coaches, right? I have met some of the smartest people in this industry, and the education is there, the credentialing is there, but the respect and the pay is not. So what are you going to do to legitimize this industry? Are you going to pay your coaches more? Are you going to offer your coaches continuing education? Are you yourself going to get involved in continuing education that goes beyond your 3 NSCA CEUs that you have to get every year? You know what I mean? Like, what are you doing to push the profession in the direction that you want it to be in? And that was something that I had to have a hard conversation with myself about. I would just sit and pout and bitch and be like, they're mean to women and I make $1, you know? And right. So then I started actively combating that type of dialogue on social media, and I started helping coaches make more money and advocate for themselves and charge what they're worth and create programs. And so identify what you hate about strength and conditioning and fix it, I would say.
The mic drop moment. Let's let her get back to work, go about the rest of your day. Jessica, thank you for coming on for the 3rd time. And I'm sure this will be a Rocky 4, a Jessica 4, right? There'll be
There's
another
whole,
one.
Not the
There's
series.
a whole series. We'll do prequels. We'll do the whole 9.
Not the prequel. Oh God.
Have a good rest of the day. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching that video. If you enjoyed it, click right here for videos just like that, and make sure you click here to subscribe to our channel. Have a great rest of your day.